This is the Grow Podcast. I'm Wendy Jo, and this is Ashley. How's it going, Ashley?
Things are well. It's been busy for me. At least the sun is out, and I think my day should include a pool.
That sounds wonderful. I can't immerse myself at all because I had cataract surgery in my eyes, which is why I'm wearing sunglasses. I'm not trying to look cool or anything.
Well, you know what? You do look kind of cool. So even if you didn't tell us that, I would just think you were being cool and I'd be okay with it.
Nice. But we have such a cool topic and guest this week on the Grow Podcast. So I interviewed Maria Chowdury, and we'll see that in a little bit, but she's just so centered and calm and sweet. I love chatting with her. I've interviewed her before, but this is about her Qigong practice and Qigong in general, path with harmony, Tai Chi and Qigong. So have you ever done Tai Chi or Qigong?
I have not. That's not part of my practice, but I feel like it has something to do with Tai Chi. Is that accurate?
Well, I think they're similar. So I took Tai Chi classes for quite a while, several years ago. And, you know, in my younger life, I was a dancer. And so I love movement. And I'm really like, when I watch myself even doing old, you know, TV shows and videos and stuff, I see that part of me that moves as I talk in different directions, right? So the movement and the energy felt really good to me. They're both really ancient practices, and I think there are similarities. But the main thing about them is movement and energy flow, right? Mind, body, and spirit, connecting it all together. So I think you would love it, actually.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like my cup of tea. Being able to harness energy, I think, is a big thing. And even when you talk about being able to like move in your body, like I do that too. And I actually do it more now that I've been to improv. Like I'm more animated in the way that I communicate. I use my hands, and I'm not scared to use it either, because sometimes it seems a little awkward when you're using your body when you're talking.
Right.
But yeah, so I think that it sounds like a really cool practice to get into. And I think the other piece of it is the mindfulness behind it. Mm-hmm. That, to me, I think really resonates.
Yeah, that connection. So, you know, people, especially in Western medicine and Western thought, we're always kind of breaking up the body, you know, like, oh, you need a mental health provider, right? Like your head is separate from the rest of you. I'm not saying one might not need a mental health provider, but I think that it's really important to look at the body as a whole. And I think a great mental health provider recognizes that too, that, you know, if your body's not functioning right, if you have metabolic issues, pain issues, you know, whatever, the energy's not moving right there, it's not going to move right up here, you know. And then the spirit, when we add that, you know, it just really feels so connected, I guess is the word. And one thing I love about Qigong, so I never took Qigong classes, but as an occupational therapist, I ran across a course a little over a year ago, occupational therapy and Qigong, and I took the course and really fell in love with it, mostly because of the breath with the movement. So many of my patients hold their breath when you ask them to do an exercise or move their body, and we all do it. And have you noticed, do you do that, hold your breath?
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that when I started doing yoga. When they would say to breathe, I always noticed I was always holding my breath.
Right, me too. And so it took some work to start to change that and breathe into the movement, however you're moving. If you're cooking dinner, or, you know, going for a walk, or performing an exercise. I think many people do that. So the breath connection with Qigong is just beautiful, and every movement there's breath with it as well, and I feel like it breathes into your spirit.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? And you're right. This is probably my whole cup of tea. So that's one of the reasons why I love to swim. because there is a required intentionality behind your breathing. And I get like exhilarated when I can hold my breath for longer periods of time, the more that I do it, and being able to come up for breath and really fill your lungs. And like, it really does become a meditative process.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, so I think you would enjoy it, especially as you're describing that. I had never thought about that. That's a meditative practice right there, swimming.
yeah. And let me tell you something, when there's kids there, it drives me insane.
Does you get out of your sync?
Yep, I can't focus, and it distracts me from myself. And kids tend to want to be in your space. So if I'm moving in a direction, they'll move right in front of me, and it just kind of disrupts my flow. So yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Well, I think if you're listening or watching and you haven't tried Qigong practice, I think stay tuned because you'll really learn a lot about it. And when, as Maria describes it, it's just even more beautiful. So stay tuned. Here comes my interview with Maria Chowdhury. Hey there, Wendy Jo from the Grow podcast. So we're talking about Qigong today with the wonderful Maria Chowdhury. And I wondered if you've tried Qigong or Tai Chi or another spiritual practice where you're moving and learning to breathe. You can really learn a lot about yourself and your spirituality and connect further to your higher self.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The High Align Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
Joining me now is Maria Chowdhury. She is the owner and proprietor of Birthsong Botanicals, and she has a Qigong practice here in Fayetteville. Welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's always delightful to chat with you. I've interviewed you several times, I think, and I always learn something. So I love chatting with you. And this is my new podcast that I co-host with Ashley, and we're talking all about spiritual topics in this podcast. So I thought Qigong would be perfect because it is a spiritual practice, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, so Qigong, right? So that word, there's technically two words, Qi, Gong. Mm-hmm. Those can be just like all really wonderful words. They can be taken really literal. They can be taken as this relational experience, and they can be taken to the spiritual level in this unfolding, right? So the answer is yes, it can be, and it doesn't have to be. Okay. Right? So the literal definition of Qigong, Qi meaning energy, Gong meaning work or skill, energy work. So a lot of people practice Qigong for medicine, for healing, for their bodies. They're moving energy through the meridians of their body. They're relieving stress. They're relaxing, and they're creating this healing environment in their body. Once they go into a parasympathetic state, they can heal, self-healing. And then healers practice Qigong, and then they attune themselves, and then they can give energy. But then you can, there's thousands of documented styles of Qigong. And some people practice Qigong because they're martial artists. And so it's partially to just get bigger and stronger and faster and be enduring, but also because they're hurt. They're hurting other people and they're hurting themselves. So then they incorporate this healing practice. And then other people are just like interested in the philosophy of the Tao. And so they want to understand the nature of reality through practicing these movements. And then other people want to practice Qigong as a spiritual practice to be in communion with nature and to ultimately lead to a path of enlightenment, right? And ultimately is to prepare us for our biggest transformation of our whole life, which is death. We want to have enough energy to have a good death, right? So we want to have enough energy to have a healthy life, a vibrant body, to heal ourselves, heal others, awaken, understand the nature of reality, and then have a good death. So that's in a nutshell some of what Qigong offers.
Wow, it's really all about life. From that description, that's because we did an episode not that long ago about death and the afterlife. And I was saying that, I was taught from the time I was a little girl that it was just part of life, So that description that you gave is so beautiful. And to me, it's kind of all spiritual in a way, right? And all about life.
Me too. Me too. The only reason I wanted to say that is you might have a listener and be like, but what I thought Qigong looked like Tai Chi. I thought Qigong looked like, Qigong can look a lot of different ways. And I practice Qigong from a spiritual perspective, but I also practice it with all those layers. So it's this whole perspective, my whole being, my human, my divine, my divinity, the wholeness of who I am, my emotions, my thoughts, right? So to me, it is a very spiritual practice, and it becomes a very practical, grounded practice that is teachable and that is repeatable, and that and I'm not making it up, it's ancient. Like, this is a Taoist. So Qigong comes from China, but when you say spiritual, there's whole sects of Buddhist Qigong practices. There are whole sects of Taoist practices. Within Taoism, there's whole varieties of these practices, and they're all practicing Qigong.
Wow, I did not know that. So it may look different depending on the tradition that it's within.
Absolutely.
I see.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so as a practical matter, it involves movement, right?
Right. So there's principles of Qigong, and so there are techniques. You're going to have these techniques are going to exist in all forms of Qigong. You're going to have breathing practices. And now some of these breathing practices are going to be to clear energy or to center you or to generate energy. But you're going to work with the breath. You're going to work with stretching your body. You're going to stretch your body. You're going to clear lines of tension. You're going to create space in your body. You're going to do a bunch of activations like shaking your body or warm-ups to create heat in your body, to circulate energy and to generate energy, right? And then after you've done that, then you dip into the flow state. And that's when you start to do these really soft, fluid, water-like movements. And then after that, then you're going to hold your posture, and you're going to do a standing posture, and that you become like an antenna. You attune yourself to the frequencies of whatever your intention is. So I might attune myself to the earth, or attune myself to the universe, or attune myself to the heart, or attune myself to my relationship with you, right? And so I'm going to stand like an antenna to attune to the frequency that I'm generating in my body, so then I can create a coherent frequency to get my mind and my heart and my body going in that same direction. So it's also a beautiful manifestation tool, because your body becomes attuned to the frequency that you're creating, that you're choosing to create.
Wow. That's so intense. Like, I'm just trying to take all that in.
Yeah, take it in. Yeah.
Right. And so the breath, you started with the breath. And I think that for any healing, that's a good starting point. I work as an occupational therapist in my regular work, and frequently I see my patients, holding their breath, right? They've had some kind of surgery or an accident, and now they're trying to recuperate and get better so they can get back to their life. And they're holding their breath, right? And to me, the breath, this is a specific practice, but what are your thoughts about, if you're holding your breath with everything you do, how can you find connection, never mind spiritually, but even with yourself, right? How important is breath?
Well, So, I mean, it's the starting point of all spiritual practices, and just a starting point of our life. We are born and we take a breath, and then our life ends is our last breath. So breathing is what keeps us alive. And it is the quickest way to change your circumstance. So, and when you're stressed out or you're emotionally overwhelmed, or you're feeling pain, if you want to create change in the body, the first thing you're going to do is change your breath. And then that's going to change your posture. And then that's going to change everything, right? And so everything starts with changing your breath. So, and then you just said it so eloquently. You were just talking about being in a surgery and healing, but you also say cut yourself off, because that's what we're doing. We're never breathing alone. Like we're always in an inhale and exhale and a communion with the other breathing creatures, the plants, each other. It's never your breath, right? I don't remember the data right now. I wish I could just point it up, but there's it takes, I think, 38 days for the humans to breathe the breath of our planet. Like, so within 38 days, I'm eventually breathing the breath of China. I'm eventually breathing the breath of California. Right? So
I never thought about that.
The ocean is breathing, the plants are breathing, and we are in this So if you're holding your breath, you're cutting yourself off from communion, from everything, from yourself, from others, from the divine, from nature.
Right. So it sounds like with Qigong, since that's the starting point of the practice, that really opens the door. It's a great, if someone is embarking on a spiritual path, they really want to learn more about themselves, about their world, the spirit, it seems like this would be a great way to start. What do you think?
Oh, well, absolutely. And you also just said breath and then spirit, and think about what you're doing. You're inhaling, you're inspired, you're inspiring, you're inspirited, So yes, I just love Qigong. So of course I'm going to say, yes, of course it's a great place to start, because you can start you can start where you are. Where do you start? You start with your breath. You find yourself where, and then that's one of the primary questions of Qigong. Where am I? Right. And then people start to think, well, I'm in Fayetteville or I'm wherever, but no, I'm right here. Right. Because your body is always in the present moment. Now, your emotions and your thoughts are not always in the present moment. And it takes Qigong skill to bring your mind and your emotions and your body in the same present moment at the same time. That's practice, right? That's what we're doing. Right.
So yeah, I love that. And I think pointing that out, that your body's in the present, I can't think of many people that really are present. We just went to a memorial last night for Claire Starr. I felt like he was present. If you were talking to Claire, you were the only person in the world, right? Who, at that moment. And it's rare. And I think that was one of the gifts that he had, and why so many people connected with him. I would love to see more people have that ability to do that. So do you think Qigong can help people to do that? It sounds like it.
Oh, absolutely. Because you become present with yourself. The other piece about presence is back to, and breath is about the relational field, right? So I'm becoming present with myself. Okay, I'm feeling my breath. I know I'm here. I'm activating my senses. I'm in my own body. Okay, I'm here. I'm aware. But then that's a little bit myopic. I'm me, here, my body. I have this pain. I have this thing. I'm here. But presence it's a little bit personal. So you have personal, and then you have intrapersonal and transpersonal. Qigong helps you go into these realms of communion with other beings. So presence, like right now, I'm aware of myself and where I am, but then I'm with you. right? But I can be with you because I'm stable within myself. And since I'm stable within myself, I have space to be with you, and I don't have to think about 30 things about myself or whatever, because I'm stable and I'm centered here, and now I have room to be with you. People that aren't present, they're not even stable in themselves, so they can't really hold the space to be with another person. And so that's what Qigong helps us do. You know, we learn a lot of skills in Qigong, a lot of capacities, but being present in the moment and responding in the moment.
That's very valuable to learn. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a seminal practice. Yeah.
So, how do you feel that Qigong has helped elevate yourself spiritually?
Qigong helps me be present. It helps me create the pause. It helps me become aware of the space in between me and you. It helps me be in relationship and be in a responsive relationship with myself. I have all these parts of myself. I have a gazillion emotions, bazillion thoughts. I have all these beliefs. Plus I have all these organs and systems. I'm a whole vast universe inside me. So I'm being in relationship with self, relationship with you, and then relationship with this macrocosmic universe, and then realizing that what that universe, like I'm looking up to the heavens, is reflected within me. That this relationship is reflected within me. The earth is reflected within me. I am not, because there's oneness and then there's wholeness. And I feel like the wholeness, I can really feel a part of the whole, the holy, the wholesome, the healing. And it helps me feel as though, and not just feel like, because I want to mamby-pamby think it so, but it helps me really realize if in 38 days we all breathe each other's breath, that when I take care of myself, not in the myopic me, selfish me, but take care of myself in such a way that I can be present with self and other and realize the wholeness, then I'm healing myself, and then that creates space, and it creates a frequency that other people can tap into. So it amplifies something that is healthy and holy and healing for myself and for others. And so I become like like I said, that tuning fork or that antenna, but my tuning fork, my vibration becomes more cohered. The more cohered my vibration becomes, the more cohered those around me become. The more I thrive, they thrive.
That's beautiful. So beautifully said as well. So I understand you have an online practice that people can join if they're interested. That makes it so convenient for anyone, anywhere, right? So how can people get in touch with you to partake?
Sure. So you want to go to the website. It's pathwithharmony.com. And the way I'm set up right now is I'm a little bit different, if you've noticed. I'm a little bit different. And Qigong, there's not a one-size-fits-all. So I bring in a lot of spirituality to the practice. So if you're looking for an exercise practice, I'm not the one. We will move and we will exercise. But if you want to commune with all of the cosmos, I might be the one that you want to hang out with. But I work with archetypal energy, and I lead people through transformational journeys. So, let me just say it like this. When you go to the website, there's a free 7-minute Qigong practice to boost your immune system. There's a free class. It's a pre-recorded class. There's some meditations. But how I do it, since I work with nature, I offer seasonal practices. So 5 times a year, we have an 8-week session. So right now I'm currently in session. The next session starts in August. But in that each season is based on the season of the year. So each session is very different. There's going to be a continuity, but each session has a different archetype, a different organ, a different emotion, a different everything about it. Right? So So it works we have 8 weeks on, and we're in this transformational container, and your presence really matters. And it is a spiritual practice. And then we have 2 weeks to integrate, and that could be complete. You might be done, or you might go to the next one. And so 5 times a year, there are options to enter.
Wonderful. I'm so happy that you joined me here on this new podcast. And I hope that people will connect with you if they're interested in this. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone have a great week. Bye.
Bye.